G'day, Andrew Marshall here again with the Northern Australia Climate Program at the University of Southern Queensland. And this is a short summary of the Bureau of Meteorology's climate outlook for Queensland for the weeks and months ahead, issued in the last week of September 2025. So we'll take a look at the rainfall outlooks to begin with, starting with these outlook scenarios. And these are the rainfall totals that have a 75% chance of occurring for your region. So looking ahead to the 3 months from October to December, as we move into the wet season for Northern Australia, we're seeing a 75% chance of around 25 to 50 millimetres of rain for parts of southwestern Queensland and up to about 100 millimetres for central regions, increasing to more than 200 millimetres for parts of the far east and north. And you can use this magnifying glass feature here to drill deeper into the forecast, specifying your location of interest, to break the forecast down into the chance of different rainfall amounts occurring. This gives you an idea of how conditions are likely to be compared to the historical median. And as always, your local climate mate will be happy to go through this with you in more detail. And now a quick recap of the Bureau's outlook for the Northern Rainfall Onset issued on the 28th of August, which was the last issue of the Northern Rainfall Onset forecast for the coming wet season. And most of Queensland has a 60 to 80% chance of an earlier than usual onset. Now let's look at temperatures, and the differences from average for maximum temperature show warmer conditions across Queensland for the 2 weeks from the 4th to the 17th of October. And here the average is calculated over the 1981 to 2018 period for this time of year. And for minimum temperature, we're expecting cooler than average conditions in some parts of southern and western Queensland, and warmer than average conditions in the northern, central and eastern regions for that 2-week period. Now, looking at the chance of extremes map for the 3 months from October to December, we're seeing an elevated chance of unusually warm days across most of Queensland and unusually warm nights across the state. And by unusually warm, we mean the highest 20% of historical temperature records for this time of year based on the 1981 to 2018 period. Now, these long-range forecasts for rainfall and temperature do provide the best guidance for local climate, so that is our focus here. These forecasts consider all ocean and atmosphere conditions that affect seasonal weather and climate. But if you're interested in some of the climate indicators that can influence the forecasts, we will have a quick look at these now. And the El Niño Southern Oscillation is neutral. The Bureau's model suggests La Niña levels may be briefly reached in October before returning to neutral in November, and this is consistent with most surveyed international models. And notice that the Bureau has updated its ENSO outlooks to now show the relative Niño index. This has been introduced to better represent El Niño and La Niña and how they relate to conditions in the Pacific Ocean rather than global warming. And you can read more about this new index on the Bureau's climate pages. Now, the Indian Ocean Dipole, or the IOD, is now in its negative phase. The Bureau's model predicts the negative IOD event to continue throughout October and November, with a return to neutral by the end of the year, consistent with all international models. The Madden-Julian Oscillation, or the MJO, has been weak over the last fortnight. It's forecast to strengthen over the Western Hemisphere and Africa in the next couple of weeks as it moves through its dry phases for Australia, and the Southern Annular Mode, or the SAM, is forecast to remain neutral for the next few weeks. The sea surface temperature outlook here is likely to be influencing the forecast for Australia. This shows warmer than average waters around northern, eastern and southeastern Australian regions, persisting for the October to December period. And in fact, sea surface temperatures in the Australian region have been the warmest or second warmest on record for each month since July last year. Now turning to the pasture growth outlook from long paddock for the 3 months from September to November, we'll see varying amounts of pasture growth returning to northern, central and eastern parts of the country in response to the expected rainfall in the months ahead, with large areas of bottom tersoil growth expected. And finally, looking at the Cattle Comfort Index prototype forecast at nacpi.org.au, index values between 30 and 35 degrees represent moderate stress to cattle, values between 35 and 40 degrees represent severe stress, and values above 40 degrees are considered extreme. And we're expecting varying heat stress conditions over Northern Australia, with some extreme conditions to be aware of in the days ahead. So as always, for more information and updates, visit the Bureau's climate pages at bom.gov.au. If you have any questions about recent conditions or the use of weather and climate forecasts, please reach out to your local climate mate. You can read more about the Northern Australia Climate Program at nacpi.org.au. See you next time.